welcome to the MediaBox. Mariia Mezentseva here to talk about PACE's pledge of support for Ukrainian prisoners, prisoners of war and civilians held by Russia. Tell us about some of the cases you looked at during this report and how many people are we talking about here?
We're talking about thousands. You know, the verified cases of the both categories you've mentioned, prisoners of war and civilians in captivity, are numbered in more than 65,000 onwards. And of course, we don't know the exact number because neither ICRC or us as Ukrainian authorities can investigate it at the temporary occupied areas and in around or even more than 50 prisons around Russia, with some being located at the very severe circumstances of nature, like in Siberia, etc. What we have learned from this experience, of course, throughout this war for more than 11 years' time, some relatives are searching for their beloved ones since 2014. Some went missing with the beginning of the full-scale invasion. So with authorized mission of relatives of civilians in captivity, they have told their stories to Secretary General, to the President of the PACE, to Commissioner of Human Rights, and to the Assembly as a whole. I think the repelling stories have brought very real feeling of the tortures that prisoners of war and civilians in captivity are experiencing, on forcible deportations, the forcible movement of them to the uncontrolled territories. And of course, we are calling to ICRC with the very broad and the most long-lasting mandate, which accounts to more than 75 years' time, to UN structures and to now Council of Europe, to maybe sort of having this triangle of cooperation, because we see that really in the factual mandate, ICRC may have some derogations and say that, yes, we stay neutral, but Russia doesn't give us access, so we can't access because of the denial, not because we don't work there or don't want to do our job. We, of course, call on very concrete steps, and I think the Assembly will pass it on to the Committee of Ministers, higher executive rank, and this is about extra sanctions for those who plan, who order, and who commit these war crimes, meaning tortures, forcible deportations, and other terrible things. Of course, we are looking at the justice in this case, which international mechanisms can be used, and we would wish to cooperate further with International Criminal Court, because we know only 4 warrants were issued due to the fact of crimes of genocidal nature, and these are deportations of children. So it was President Putin himself, Ombudsman for Children, Vova Belova, and 2 generals. But these cases are so wide that we think ICC can look closer, together with, of course, national authorities. We do it at the national level, but you can imagine when it comes to sexual violence, rape, when we had the youngest victim, 8-year-old child, we are of course looking for the soldiers, for the perpetrators, but it's not evident that they will be physically taken into the court. So we also do cases in absentia, and we would call ICC to support us in these cases to issue international warrants for such people. Of course, this topic is very sensitive, and it hasn't been as high on the agenda, but we were reassured by the next presidency of the Council of Europe that Luxembourg will take it very high and on the agenda, and will take it up on board. So we were very thrilled with the support of the PACE, and of course there was a very emotional moment when the families were at the balcony watching the debate. They also received the news that the letters arrived, that ICRC brought the letters from their relatives, so they were completely in tears. I think the Assembly is doing a very good job, because there are 2 other reports which are dedicated to this topic separately in political and legal committees on prisoners of war and civilians in captivities. And I'd like to make sure, last but not least, these 2 categories are very different. According to Geneva Convention, we can of course, exchange prisoners of war to prisoners of war, and the Assembly supports the approach of Ukraine, exchange all for all, then one day we will not have, the problem itself. When it comes to civilians, according to Geneva Convention, you can't even take them in captivity. So on Ukrainian side, we have no one to exchange them for, because we adhere to international rules. We don't have Russian civilians as prisoners. So Russia do it on purpose, because it's a very genocidal war, and the attempt is to later, influence the families, make them helpless, make them very sad, make them feel that they don't receive the support. But the support is here in the Assembly, the support is at the governmental level, and I'm sure that we will have more of an efforts in the nearest future.
Mariia Mezentseva, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.